Chapter 1. Exodus. Teehee engine caught fire. Silence fell over the cabin. Just moments ago, the air had been filled with quiet conversations and clinking coffee cups. But now, even the flight attendant's breathing could be heard. Tejan gripped the armrest tightly. The captain's voice echoed through the speaker. "Ladies and gentlemen, due to an engine malfunction, we will attempt an emergency landing. Once again, we ask for your full cooperation." A flight from New York to London. Tejan closed his eyes. And in that moment, he recalled a day long ago, his departure from Narita Airport. It had been the same then. It was the evening of January 4th, 1982, at Narita Airport in Tokyo. Tejan stood at the gate, clutching a worn briefcase. In his hand was a currency exchange receipt for $183. That was all the money he had, just like now, as flames rose from the engine. Back then, too, Tejan stood at the edge of a cliff in life, but he had survived, and he would survive again. The departure lounge at Narita Airport was bustling with passengers awaiting their evening flights. Through the darkening windows, the runway lights shimmered faintly, and boarding announcements flowed steadily over the speakers. Tejan stood quietly, gazing out from one corner of the airport. His father silently looked at Taijun, Yujin, and Minseo. No words were exchanged. They had already spoken at length during the past few months in Tokyo. There was nothing more to say. They knew what needed to be done. During those months, they had stayed together in Aoyama, exploring parts of Japan, while his father had calmly shared the ups and downs of his life and business. A few months earlier, Taijun's father had been running a clothing business in Korea. But that past summer, burdened by bank loans and private debt, he lost his factories, his company, everything. He had come to Tokyo searching for another chance. Taijun had witnessed his father's downfall. Although his own business was separate, it convinced him that Korea's business environment was too harsh, and so he decided to go to America. He was somewhat familiar with the country. Tejan had visited New York and San Francisco multiple times for trade meetings over the years. Before Taijun's departure, his father quietly handed him 20,000 yen. It was what remained after purchasing one-way tickets for the three of them, as he had been unable to collect outstanding payments during the year-end. That was Taijun's entire fortune for his journey to America. As boarding time approached, Taijun bowed deeply to his father and said, "Goodbye." It was a short but deeply meaningful farewell. His father stood silently watching him. He neither waved nor said another word. Taijun led Yujin and Minseo toward the boarding gate. His steps were firm, but his mind was heavy. As the plane roared down the runway and lifted into the sky, Tejan looked out the window. The city lights grew smaller, disappearing into the endless darkness. Yujin, holding Minseo in her arms, had fallen asleep. But Taijun couldn't close his eyes for a second. This journey to America was not a mere relocation. It was a new beginning, and a leap into an uncertain future. Yujin majored in violin at university, played in orchestras, and taught children. But America was unfamiliar territory. Though she had followed the path Tejan chose, she couldn't shake her anxiety about this new environment. After 5 hours, the plane landed at Honolulu Airport in Hawaii. Taijun, holding only one-way tickets, worried there might be trouble at immigration. Fortunately, with a small child, the process went smoothly. As he gathered their luggage, the reality of arriving in America slowly began to sink in. But still, all he had in hand was $183. From Honolulu, they flew to Los Angeles. There, Yujin's friend, Minkyung's husband, Kevin, and Taijun's younger brother Tae-soo greeted them. Though Taijin and Kevin were not well acquainted, Kevin had driven a large van to pick up his wife's friend. "You must be tired from the long trip." After a brief exchange of greetings, Taejin nodded silently. It had been a long journey, but it was far from over. They left the airport and headed straight to Min-kyung's house in Long Beach. The passing cityscape felt unfamiliar to Taejin. Though he had traveled to New York and San Francisco multiple times for business, this time was different. This was not just another business trip. This was where his new life would begin. Arriving in Long Beach, Min-kyung welcomed them warmly. She and Eugene quickly fell into conversation, laughter flowing easily as they reunited after a long time. Taejin sat quietly, listening, thinking of the belongings they had brought: Eugene's violin, a few family photo albums, 2 red mink blankets, a single-person electric rice cooker from Japan, a few of Eugene's music sheets, several winter clothes for each of them. That was everything. Soon after, they moved to Eugene's aunt's house in Irvine. It was a quiet home with a small garden visible through the window. The house was warm inside, but Taejin did not unpack. Their place to stay had not been decided yet. He gazed out the window, lost in thought, and asked himself, "What will I do?" He planned to continue working in trade, but nothing was set in stone. One thing was clear: there was no longer any hope left in Korea, and he would have to find his future in America. He knew all too well that in his hands were that $183, and the future he would have to build with his own 2 hands.